Welcome to the next unit on GE, Readings on Indian Diversity and Literary Movements. My name is Piyush Chaudhary, Assistant Professor at the Department of English, Hansraj College. I welcome you all to this lecture at Hansraj e-Samvaad Center, which is a center established by Hansraj College for dissemination and discussion on academic topics. I welcome the viewers and the students once again. As we all know, we are in the midst of the ongoing lecture series on the GE Readings on Indian Diversity and Literary Movements, and we have already completed 2 units, first by Sujit Mukherjee and then the other one by Sufi and Bhakti Traditions. The link is attached in the playlist. You can watch all these videos. This is unit number 3, which is titled Language Politics, Hindi and Urdu. And in this unit, firstly, we'll discuss Amrit Rai's introduction, which is titled A House Divided, and it will discuss the debate on whether Hindi and Urdu are are they both one language or are they both different separate languages, and it will also discuss how it emerged from Hindavi, and we'll also understand the various forms of Hindi, and we'll also discuss the socio-political history of the emergence of Hindi language, right? Then we'll also be discussing about the split between Hindi and Urdu and how these two languages, they took up shape of their own, and so these are the various points that we'll be discussing. And we'll also be knowing what are the reasons why Hindi and Urdu became two different languages. They went completely into different directions. What caused the split between Hindi and Urdu, right? So this is what we will be discussing. These are some of the major points in short, which we'll be discussing. So firstly, it has to be understood that Hindi and Urdu both are the same languages. However, they are written in different scripts. For example, if it's written in the Devanagari script, it becomes Hindi. If written in the Perso-Arabic script, the Persian Arabic script, then you can call it Urdu. So basically, this essay by Amrit Rai is very important because it tells us the basic differences between Hindi and Urdu, and he will present the complex argument between Hindi and Urdu, right? And as the title itself suggests, it's a house divided. So basically, it's a single house in which both Hindi and Urdu, they are sisters. They are living in a house, and it's a house which is divided. Because they both are same, but they are still divided. So we'll try to find the answers why this division has come up. Let us start reading the essay, and you will notice that right in the very beginning, Amrit Rai gives quotations from several critics, several anthropologists, several linguists, several scholars, such as he mentions firstly Amir Khusro, then he also mentions Gyan Chand, then he mentions R.B. Sharma, he mentions George Grierson, he mentions Gilchrist. These are all some established authorities, some established what you can say critics, and they give their views, and then Amrit Rai tries to reach to a new conclusion, right? So firstly, he talks about Grierson. In the very beginning of the essay, he quotes Grierson, and who says that the word Hindi represents a native of the land, that is India. So this is one definition of Hindi given by Grierson. Then he moves forward by highlighting a couple of misconceptions and confusions related to the Hindi language. Now look at these lines to understand what Amrit Rai is trying to say here, and I am quoting these lines. He says, first, it does not seem right to ascribe Hinduvi or Hindavi as the exclusive property of the Hindus alone. Some of the greatest poets of Hindi and Urdu, are Muslim. Secondly, to refer to the Hinduvi as the old language of India which prevailed before the Musalman invasion seems to imply that the development of Hindavi came to a stop after the Muslim invasion. But this was not so. So therefore, Amrit Rai is here saying that Hindi was not only for the Hindus, because the Muslim poets also widely used Hindi. They developed and wrote poetry in Hindi, and secondly, Hindi developed even more after the Islamic invasion after the 12th century. It was not that the Islamic invasion hindered the development of Hindi. Therefore, by this logic, it cannot be established that Islam was against the idea of Hindi, or Islam did not allow Hindi to properly develop, because that was the major religion after the 12th 13th century, right? Then we have another critic, his name is Gyan Chand, a very noted Urdu scholar. He also means, and he also believes, that Hindi and Urdu are two different languages, and they are, he says that they are not two different languages, and they are one and the same language, because the basic vocabulary of Hindi is almost the same as that of Urdu. So we have one more critic who is of the same opinion, and Amrit Rai gives a very logical argument here, and and I'm quoting him again. He says, if before partition, Punjabi Muslims wrote Punjabi in the Urdu script, the Sikhs in the Gurumukhi, and the Hindu in the Devanagari, this did not mean that they wrote three different languages. So these lines by Gyanchand, therefore, they are important because it means that Hindi and Urdu are, they are written in just two different scripts, but the language is similar, right? Then the next critic that he mentions is, as you can see, Ehtisam Hussain, and he says, that he gives the same viewpoint, that they are not two different languages. However, there is one critic, and his name is W. Yeats, and he gives this opinion, but this opinion is based on the basis of religion only. So according to W. Yeats, both are religion specific. Therefore, according to him, Urdu is for Muslims and Hindi is for Hindus, according to W. Yeats. But Amrit Rai says that this is just a minority opinion. This is not a majority opinion. This is out of the several loads and loads of critics who have said that they are same. But there is just one minority opinion which says that they are different. So though to a great extent this might be true, but then the origin of Hindi and Urdu cannot be debated because they both are same languages, but due to the political expediency, you can say, due to the creation of Pakistan, or you can even where Urdu is the major language, and Bharat, in India, Hindi is one of the most widespread languages. It might hold true what W. Yeats is saying, but that is, it might appear to be true, but that's not the reality, right? Because then Amrit Rai gives another critic. His name is Ram Bilas Sharma, and he is also mentioned here in the text. And Ram Bilas Sharma says, Hindi, Urdu are not two separate languages, they are basically one and the same. Their pronouns, verbs and basic vocabulary are the same. There are no two other languages in the world whose pronouns and verbs are 100% the same. Russian and Ukrainian are very much akin to each other, but they are even not so closely alike. So these words by Ram Bilas Sharma, who is again a noted Hindi critic and a Hindi scholar, he gives a very, what you can say, a vital point, that the basic vocabulary of Indian and of Hindi and Urdu are still the same. But the readers and the students might be wondering that if they are still the same, then why did this actually occur? Why did the split occur? Why did Urdu become completely different? Why today we have different departments in academia, in universities, Hindi and Urdu? The readers might be thinking all of this. So in the concluding paragraphs, Amrit Rai gives us the answer to this. In short, basically he says that the answer is that there were certain divisive forces in the 19th century, and it was the result of certain political decisions under the British rule which actually, created the wedge, which created the divide. And Amrit Rai mentions Fort William College, which was set up in the year 1800, in Calcutta. So the British government started, in 1800, in the 19th century, they started investing heavily in Indian education, and this, for the very first time, this college, this started the split, as it promoted Urdu as a totally different language, right? Also in the 19th century onwards, as we all know, in the aftermath of the Battle of 1857, it also helped in increasing the policy of divide and rule. British believed in policy of divide and rule, so therefore they deliberately created this division. And in the mid 19th century, it was Fort William College, which was established in Calcutta. So they set up two different departments, one of Urdu and the other of Hindi language. So, and it was precisely this reason which led to an academic split, which later on became social split, and which later on completely became a linguistic split. Hence, can we say that what started as a political decision later on took a social position, and therefore if anyone wants to know why Hindi and Urdu became two different languages after the 19th century, then the answer to this question lies in the establishment of Fort William College. Because this college promoted Urdu as a totally different language, as a totally different academic discipline, as a totally different department. Right? Hindi and Urdu became two different departments. Right? So the split occurred between Hindi and Urdu, in this way, in this particular manner. So on this note, the essay ends. It's a very short essay, and just to conclude, Amrit Rai gives us several insights. He quotes so many other critics, and they are established authorities. They are, theorists. They are linguists. They are academicians, and how he gives an insight into the origin of Hindi, and how he does so. He does so by giving the viewpoints of all these established scholars and linguists and critics, Ramvila Sharma, Gyanchand, Grierson, and so on and so forth. And they have worked relentlessly on Hindi language. So these scholars gave their views, and Amrit Rai builds upon their views. And only finally he concludes that it was the establishment of the Fort William College which created the split between Hindi and Urdu. Otherwise, Hindi and Urdu were originally linguistically, syntactically the same language. Why? Because their basic vocabulary is the same. So Amrit Rai gives us these very ideas which I have discussed in detail in this entire lecture, by citing examples from the text. And I hope the readers were able to take some valuable ideas and were able to understand the way in which Amrit Rai wrote this essay. It's a slightly complex essay because there are various viewpoints and differing opinions given by several scholars, both national as well as international. But these are the major ideas. So we understood the split between Hindi and Urdu. We understood that the basic vocabulary is the same. It's a house divided. A division has been created. It was deliberate. It was deliberate on the part of the 19th century British politics of divide and rule, as well as the creation of several academic disciplines, which sent these two languages into two different directions. So I hope I was able to explain and simplify these ideas. Do let me know if there are any more doubts related to the origin of Hindi and Urdu. And if you have any other opinions or suggestions, please feel free to share them below so that we can engage in more such discussions at Hansraj e-Samvaad. I will see you very soon shortly in the next topic, and that is the Ghazal by Amir Khusro. In the next topic, I'll be discussing the Ghazal by Amir Khusro, and then we'll go on in our syllabus forward, in the coming days. So it was great to see you here, and I thank you all for listening to me. Keep watching Hansraj e-Samvaad. I thank you all again. Goodbye. Jai Hind.